So I'd like to introduce the first paper of the session, Climate Smart Agriculture in South Asia, Exploring Practices, Determinants, and Contribution to Sustainable Development Goals by Dr. Naveen Johar. Naveen Johar he is the founder and the chairman of the Gopali Community of the Economics, and he has been consciously apply free market principles to unlock the potential in constructing into an inclusive and sustainable society. And the discussant of the session is Yong Sheng Tay, who is a senior researcher from University Putra, Malaysia. So I welcome both the presenter and the discussant for today's session.
Hello everyone, my name is Naveen and today I am here to present our study on climate smart agriculture in South Asia, exploring the practices, determinants and contributions to sustainable development goals.
And thank you, Naveen, for providing further clarity to what you have written down in your manuscript. And this is a review paper which serves as a library of knowledge for the previous research that has been undertaken in these areas of importance. We will now remind the team that this is a wonderful job and we would like to see more inputs as well as output from your team later. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to this second day of the virtual conference on climate smart agriculture, adoption's impact and implications for sustainable development. Yesterday, we had a very long day and we had very fruitful discussions. Now we are heading towards second day. So, today we will have about 10 papers that will be presented. And in the afternoon around 4:30, we'll have a keynote speech by Saizo Sensei on future design. He is a very well-known, well-established researcher on future design. And I hope all of you will stay on to listen to his interesting insight on future designs from the climate smart agriculture perspective. But without going further, I would like to share with you a few house rules. Dr. Sukanya Das, she is an associate professor and head of Department of Policy and Management Studies at Terry Schools of Advanced Studies, New Delhi. She has over 17 years of experience in teaching and research in the field of environmental economics. She is passionate about applying rigorous methods and tools to address complex and pressing environmental and social challenges. Her expertise lies in environmental valuation, choice experiment, auction mechanisms, pricing in water and wastewater sectors, waste management, renewable energy quantifications of health impact, and suitable policy prescriptions. She has published multiple papers in peer-reviewed journals, authored book and report, and presented at national and international seminar on this topic. Currently, she is involved with two ongoing research projects, Saraswati 2, which is 4 years project jointly funded by European Union Horizon 2020 Research and Innovations Program under grant agreement 821427 and by the Department of Science and Technology. And beside this, like she has also contributed to T20 and T7 extensively. With this, may I invite Dr. Sukanya to please take on the floor and chair the session.
Thank you, Dr. Dil, for the introduction. So I welcome all the presenters and the discussions and also the participants who have been today there for this afternoon session. So I'd like to introduce the first paper of the session, Climate Smart Agriculture in South Asia, Exploring Practices, Determinants, and Contribution to Sustainable Development Goals by Dr. Naveen Johar. Naveen Johar he is the founder and the chairman of the Gopali Community of the Economics, and he has been consciously apply free market principles to unlock the potential in constructing into an inclusive and sustainable society. And the discussant of the session is Yong Sheng Tay, who is a senior researcher from University Putra, Malaysia. So I welcome both the presenter and the discussant for today's session. Naveen, now you can start with the presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. So, hello everyone. My name is Naveen, and today I am here to present our study on climate smart agriculture in South Asia, exploring the practices, determinants, and contributions to sustainable development goals. Uh, just a moment. Here we will discuss about background of the study. That is basically climate change is adversely impacting the agriculture sector in South Asia. Frequently and intense drought, flood, cyclone events, heat waves, and altered rain patterns are reducing crop yields. In addition to being adversely impacted by the climate change, the sector emits greenhouse gases. And in this sector, the climate smart agriculture practices has emerged as a sustainable approach and having both adaptation and mitigation benefits. So here is the conceptualizing the CSA. Basically, CSA is an integrated approach to managing landscapes, croplands, livestock, forest, fisheries that addresses the interlinking challenge of food security and climate change. Uh, its aim to tackle three main objectives. First is sustainably increasing agriculture productivity, incomes, adapting and building resilience to climate change, and reducing or removing greenhouse gases emission where possible. And interventions under the CSA is weather smart, water smart, seeds smart, nutrition carbon smart, market financial smart, or institutional smarts. And outcome is food security, nutritional security, financial security, and resources securities. So here we found the literature gap. Currently, several studies are conducted in South Asian region on the adoption of CSA practices. However, there is a lack of study that systematically bring the diverse knowledge from the sporadic studies spread across the different area of South Asia and can inform policymakers and stakeholders in devising effective policy options to achieve the SDG through the CSA. In this context, to best of our knowledge, the first to synthesize a finding from a wide range of literature on CSA. And the research questions we build here is the what are the current CSA practices being implemented in South Asia? What are the barriers and facilitators for adopting CSA practices in South Asia? And third is how do CSA practices in South Asia contribute to sustainable development goals? So for these questions, we basically conducted the systematic literature review. And after these keywords, we found a 284 study from the Web of Science and 234 study from the Scopus and 77 study from the Science Direct. And after the duplication remove, we got 431. And after the title screening, we had 279. And after the full text review of 184, we got the 78 studies. And after these 78 studies, we adopted during these studies, we adopted this is the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Basically, for article title, we discussed the article exploring farmer practices in managing climate risk, determinants of the climate smart agriculture or climate resilient agriculture or climate risk mitigation technology. Whereas exclusion was the impact of climate change on agriculture. The language basically we use English, and other than the English, we put in exclusion. And the reason of the study is the South Asian country, and the unrelated to South Asian country, we put in exclusion. For inclusion, we use firstly for 1st January 2010 to 2013 because basically the CSA has been defined in 2010. The study published before 2010, we did not take about it. And empirically, as well as experimental study, we adopted, and perception-based article or secondary data-based article was excluded, and the unique study and imitative study we have excluded, and the unique study have included CSA practices and its determinants and its impacts, and unrelated to these practices we exclude it. Then this is basically the journal informations about our study, year and country wise publications on CSA in South Asia. Basically, here is a journal information of the reviewed paper. This figure illustrates the publication trend related to the CSA studies in South Asia from 2010 to 2023. The research into the CSA started to gain moment. Here we can see clearly in 2014. Over the year, the research publication have upward trend, and the highest number of the study from two South Asian countries. One is the India, that is 43, and the second is the Pakistan, that is 19, followed by the Bangladesh and Nepal, each 6. Then here is the basically country-wise total and average sample size of what we reviewed the studies in our SLR. The screen study for this review collected a total 21,046 sample in this research. The size of these samples varied significantly, spanning from 10,551 sample in India to a much smaller set of 20 samples in Sri Lanka. But a contrast emerged in terms of the average sample size. Studies conducted for the Pakistan have highest average sample size of 365, and for Bangladesh it was followed by the Bangladesh, it was 358, and India with 245. And over South Asian, the average sample size across all the study is 269. So here is the practices adopted under the CSA in South Asia. The review identified several CSA practices in South Asia, such as mulching, direct seeded rice, cover cropping, double transplantations, farmyards, manure, permanent rice beds, soil fertility monitoring, residue incorporation, soil conservation, reduce and zero tillage, rescheduling planting, crop rotations, water conservations, climate resilient seeds, crop diversification, farm diversification, laser land leveling, water harvesting, and agroforestry. One of the interesting thing is that the approximately 47% of the reviewed study are related to the climate resilient seeds, and followed by the reduce or zero tillage, that is 44% of the study. India stand out as here you can see the India stand as a sole country in the South Asian nation that has adopted highest practices, followed by the Pakistan. And here is the basically determinant of CSA adoption in South Asia. Determinant of CSA in South Asia is basically we categorize in 3 categories, basically institutional factors, socioeconomic factors, and climatic factors. Socioeconomic factor, approximately 48% of the reviewed study discuss education as a highly significant, here you can see, and followed by the livestock ownership, age, land holding, farmer experience, and rural community and market access. And 90% of the study observed market inefficiency is a significant and negatively affect the adoption of CSA practices, as yesterday Professor Edward Barbie has mentioned about the subsidy and markets, and that is very much here we noticed one of the highest problem during this paper. We encountered that the problem of subsidy is not only destroying the market, but also became the incentive for use the resources in wasteful manner that we have mostly encountered. And here is the implications of CSA in sustainable development goals in South Asia. We can see here screen study highlighted positive impact CSA practices in 8 SDGs of the 17. We observed 69% of the study highlighted positive impact CSA practices on SDG 1, that is no poverty, and 45% of the study on positive impact on SDG 2, that is zero hunger, and 43% of the study highlighted the positive impact on SDG 3, that is climate actions. So basically here is the conclusion. This systematic review explored the state of CSA practices, determinants, and their impacts on achieving the SDG in South Asia. two primary CSA practices, climate, as we have already discussed, climate resilient seeds, zero minimum tillages emerge as a dominant strategy in South Asian context. Besides, some of the study also reported other CSA practices such as rescheduling planting, water conservation, crop diversification, soil conservation, and water harvesting. The farmer who are educated, young, and have large land holding were more likely to adopt the CSA technology effectively. Beside the increasing temperature, flood, and delay in the rainfall were also some of the major driving force behind the adoption of CSA in South Asia. It should also be mentioned that ICT play a vital role in effectiveness of the CSA practices. And the review underscores several positive contributions of the CSA to multiple SDGs in South Asia. It significantly enhances crop yields, SDG 2. It lifts small landholder out of poverty, that is SDG 1. Improve the food security, SDG 2. Promote goods health by reducing chemical use of food production, SDG 3. Empower women farmer, SDG 5, conserve water resources, SDG 6, and aids in climate action, SDG, by reducing greenhouse gases. So here we will discuss policy implications that is very important and need of time for the CSA, and not only for the CSA, but also everyone, those who are even farmer or not, because establishing we can have following the policy implications of establishing training center for CSA practices with an emphasis on the use of ICT tools, and training should also targeted women, elderly farmers to bridge the gap, the digital gap in the technology adoptions, investing in strengthening ICT infrastructure in rural area for a greater reach, because ICT emerges as a major determinants of the CSA. Facilitating collaborations between small and medium enterprises and agriculture extension agent, enabling the local supply of CSA related technology, because under SME, the local supply chain or local people can provide the instrument for adoption of the CSA, supporting stakeholders, collaborations to pool resources, informations, and skill in promoting CSA practices, increasing market linkage for the CSA production and doing and value chains. That is a very important concept. And furthermore, acknowledging the importance of CSA in attending the sustainable development goals would require the incorporation of CSA practices into national development agenda, climate action plan, and agriculture policies. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naveen. So I now request Yong to put forward his comment as discussant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Naveen, for providing further clarity to what you have written down in your manuscript. And this is a review paper which serves as a library of knowledge for the previous research that has been undertaken in these areas of importance. So as we wait for Mami to upload my slide there, I will continue commenting based on what I have prepared. So in this paper, Naveen and the team advocates a targeted approach for policy intervention, and that's the preposition. And when we look at the three main objectives proposed in this manuscript, first, it is to summarize what are the current CSA practices that have been implemented in South Asia, followed by the identification of barriers and facilitators for the adoption of CSA in South Asia. And finally, how do CSA practices contribute to SDGs? Next slide, please, Mami. And further down as well. Next slide. Yeah. So for the three objectives that indicated in the manuscript, I think each of them deserves a very special and delicate care as well as focus, so that the library of knowledge is well inventoried for. So this is a positive note to the future work perhaps to Navin and the team. Because when we look at the findings there, you'll find that there are a lot of important information are not captured for. So for example, if you look at the left chart there, basically Navin and the team have presented how many of these practices have been accounted for by the number of studies. And if you follow the literature of technological adoption as well as innovation diffusion, in the case of agriculture, what is often critical to the knowledge of practitioners is that what is the current status of adoption, whether we are talking about the current uptake rate or we are talking about the dynamic process in which farmers are still considering how to and what to do about these practices. So those are some critical information that we are hungry for, especially in terms of providing the current state of knowledge when it comes to CSA. Moreover, in terms of the novelty of CSA, in many societal contexts, they are still considered as relatively new innovations to the local institutions as well as farmers. That's why the knowledge about the status of the adoption as well as the use as well as the consideration of CSA becomes relevant here. And I move that to the right-hand chart here. I think Nari and the team have done a very good job in showing us what might be the critical factors in driving the adoption of CSA. As much as that are helpful in providing us a background understanding here, I would like to encourage Navin and the team to go further and then look at whether they are positively related and negatively related, and then what could be the potential explanations to some of those key factors, especially when we look at meta-analysis. There is a very influential factor we call that size effect to be considered in policy making, because the logic is pretty simple. If some factors are deemed extremely influential, then the policy emphasis should be given to those influential ones. So I would like to suggest these are the key ones to focus and consider in future work. Moving next to the next slide. And slowly I will come back to some issues of South Asia here. Now, here I would like to provide some recommendations when it comes to literature research, because as we see now, a lot of the search keywords here are very specific on the CSA, as well as some of the practices of CSA, and followed by the adaptation. And I think a keyword of adoption is not there. So we also need to consider about what are some other keywords that could be used interchangeably with what we try to address here. And there are also studies that might not focus on a country. It could be about subnationals as well. So I would encourage, there is an opportunity to actually expand the search keywords here. Next slide, please. Now, the logic I put up there is that it's always easier when we know the end is clear to us, and then we move forward to look at the social context that we are interested in here. So in South Asia, it is a very diverse region in terms of the climate as well as agriculture systems. So it will be very interesting if some of those CSA practices can be identified to certain areas, for example, in this map. Next slide, please. And finally, we also would like to see some logical reasoning as well as ground to why we focus on South Asia. And certainly based on literature, we find there are a lot of good reasons to believe that there are a lot of work needs to be done in helping farmers to shift their agriculture system to the one that is more adaptive to the existing as well as future challenges. And I think IPCC has done a good work to show us that how severe the region is to future climate events. So I would like to stop here with a positive note to Nari and the team that this is a wonderful job, and we would like to see more inputs as well as output from your team later. Thank you.